Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Media Morals. It's S, and in the last week I read The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. Em actually let me borrow this, so she has read this, and that's what all the tabs are. So over the past few years, Marie Kondo has become really like a household name. A lot of people have taken to her KonMari method of tidying, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I think with this and her method, I can try to start organizing my life a little better. So I just want to talk about the basics of what she suggests to do, and then we'll go from there. So basically what she says is that you have to throw away and discard all the things first before you can start organizing. You can't just do one pile at a time. You have to do all the objects of a similar type together. So for her, she has a specific list of things you should go through first in categories. So the first one is clothes, because that's considered easier for people to see what they need and really don't. But for me, I'm going to start with something that I thought would be better for the purpose of the video, which is all my books. And I have them just piled around me. And so I tried to follow her method. First, I got all the books. So I took them from my bookshelf, and I had just a few other piles lying around. So I put them all on my bed and around me. And by doing this, I really agree. You have to put everything out in order to recognize how much you have. Because while they're on the shelf, I was like, oh, I don't really have that many books. But now with them like spread around me, I'm like, wow, this is a hefty stack. And so that's what we're doing today. I'm going to organize them into books that do spark joy and keep them, and then I'm going to make another pile of books that once spark joy, but I'm going to thank them for the joy they gave me while I read them, and then move on. When it's time to let go, you have to learn to let go, which is what I need to learn. I think firstly, I'm just going to start with the whole Percy Jackson series. A classic. This is meant for like little kids, but I really love this story. I love this series. It just really sparks joy from my childhood. I think a preconceived notion I had was that her lifestyle really encourages minimalism. It's really difficult because I feel like it's fun to be a minimalist, but I'm also not able to, because trying to like care about the environment and be conscious about the trash I produce and what I throw away is really difficult, because I don't want to throw anything away because I think, oh, that's trash, I might have a use for it. I want to be environmentally conscious, and so I don't want to create waste. But what her method really states is that minimalism is not her goal. It's just about keeping the things that do spark joy. So for some people, they realize that this means it is like a minimalism lifestyle, and so they find that all the objects that spark joy are a lot less than what they had to begin with, and so that ends up looking like minimalism. However, that's not always the case, and a good example of this is Em. I love this book, because she was actually talking about this to our friends a while back, and her room is definitely far from a minimalistic room, but everything in there for her sparks joy, and so that's an accomplishment. For me, I feel like I personally might lean toward more of the minimalism route. That's definitely not everyone. Oh, I liked this book when I was younger. I was actually late to this trend. I did not read the Hunger Games series until 7th grade. Love the series when I was younger. It's kind of like a prequel. Love this book as well. This book was an extra credit assignment in my geometry class. Does not really spark joy. This was another one of my favorites growing up. Recognize this book? It was a book I had to read last year for lit. It has annotations. Good book. Read it too long ago. Not a huge fan anymore. Loved this book when I read it. Can't even remember the plot anymore. Fun Christmassy book for maybe middle school. Love this book. I think I do like Ender's Shadow better than Ender's Game. Sorry for the noise, that's the heater, it's cold here. Really fun series, recommend. This book I got at like a summer reading thing, and I kind of kept it out just because I thought the cover is kind of aesthetic. I read this book as part of my school book club as well. I do enjoy it. So you might have noticed I am wearing a different shirt, and that's because yesterday I was filming and I was going great, and then my camera battery died, and once it was charged, the sun was down and the lighting looked terrible. and then I left it to charge overnight, and then I tried to film with it again today, and then 2 seconds in it froze and it said the battery was dead even though I literally charged it overnight. So I think there's something just wrong with that camera. And I just want to finish sorting my pile of books here so I can put them all back on the bookshelf and make a box to donate so I can get this mess off my bed and my room will be a little less cluttered. I think for me, one of the hard things about cleaning is that just my family kind of gets in the way sometimes, because this is kind of part of like Japanese culture. There's like this saying called mottainai, and it's just like if you're going to throw away something that's perfectly usable, it's like wasteful. And that kind of just aligns with like zero waste and my goal to become more environmentally friendly. So it just kind of sucks that getting rid of stuff for me is kind of like, it's either getting rid of stuff or like keeping stuff that I don't need just because I don't want to be wasteful. This cover is pretty even though I haven't read it in a long time. So I think that's a really difficult part for me. So Marie Kondo said that when you're throwing stuff away and doing like a major purge, sometimes it's not always best to tell your family because you're burdening them with the knowledge that you're throwing away a lot of things that might still be in okay condition, and then they feel obligated to keep them when they really should be. And she gave an example of she forced a lot of her old clothes onto her younger sister because she didn't want to have the guilt of throwing them away, and her younger sister, she was kind of like guilt tripped into keeping them even though they are clothes she was never going to wear. Recognize it? A classic. Moving forward for me, I'm going to try to go through all of my categories of objects and start discarding items I don't really need, but not in like a super obvious way, just more in a subtle way so that I can try to follow her tip regarding defining family space and what's yours and what to tell your family about and what to burden them with. Obviously you can't just go around throwing your family members' stuff away because that's what she actually did because she was like super into it. You really have to start with yourself. And another thing she said was that after you do this, in her clients she can see a physical effect. They feel healthier and it affects their mentality too, and they're a lot more happy. When you have so many objects, sometimes the dust just piles up and this can be stifling, and so once you clean and get rid of unnecessary objects, it just makes the room feel fresher, and the air is also cleaner and there's less dust. And I'm like about to sneeze because these books have dust on them, so I can see her point. Last book, cool book. I remember there's like these yogurt spoons or ice cream spoons in them. Finally finished sorting all the books and I put the ones I want to keep back on the bookshelf and it looks a lot better. I think this is a difficult category for me to choose first, and I definitely see why she recommends against it because I think with a lot of other things that are less visually appealing, it's easier to just get rid of them. I don't know, I just have a lot less books now. Probably like a third less, which is crazy, but also good, right? If you're looking to declutter your room or your living space or your house, I really encourage you to take the first step in getting started. It may seem overwhelming, but once you get your foot in and you really commit to it, I believe that you can do it. And this is a goal of mine for this year, to just clean up my room and be happy with everything in it.
Okay, the biggest thing I learned from like Marie Kondo book is like how to fold clothes, because a lot of the times before I wouldn't wear the shirts on the bottom, and I think that that's probably the best thing. I mean, they do have like good advice to throw things away and stuff, but I think the folding is probably the best, and it's also really fun to fold t-shirts.
I just want to leave with a final moral that if you are unhappy with others, sometimes it's best not to take it out on them, but to look at yourself and see what you can improve on. So that's just something to think about. I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye, Internet!